some fun.
It's time for the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast. Here with a load of laughs, info, and fun, it's Tony B, Dave B, and Timmy D.
Before I go alone. Don't ask me this and one more song. It ain't too costly, no, I ain't too cheap, so just relax. I'm
on my knees. All right, welcome to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast, episode number 127. My name's Tony B. Alongside me, as usual, is David B. Timmy D out this Saturday morning. Topic number one. I've got two gentlemen on with us this morning. We have Brandon, Kirk, and Caleb. Amick, I think I'm saying his name right. Caleb wrote an article that got picked up by Yahoo about UFOs in Anderson. Brandon's more of the expertise in this field. So we got a little space music in the background, but welcome to Ship's Gonna Happen. You're listening to podcast number 127. The views of Ship's Gonna Happen are purely news-driven and do not express the views of any transportation provider or any business entity that uses any transportation provider. David, we do it because of
Transportainment.
Kaboom, Transportainment. That's right. You can catch us on all the platforms, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon, iHeartRadio. Just put us in the search engine and you shall find us. David B., it's a beautiful Saturday morning here in February in Indianapolis. It is crazy. I'm going to open the poll, dude.
Producer Tony, what's that big yellow ball of gas in the sky this morning? I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that?
In about 2 weeks.
It's called the sun.
The sun.
Yeah.
Is that new? Because it's been a while since I've seen that thing. It's nice, good-looking Saturday morning. This show, along with all our other shows, are brought to you by The Great Divide, 743 East New York Street, downtown Indianapolis. Great place to go after a Ship's Gonna Happen week. Great place to go to unwind, get a great meal, get some good drinks, hear some good music, chat it up with the locals. If you're ever in the Great Divide, tell them that the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast sent you in. Great Jen and her group do a great job of kind of taking care of everybody, and they'll definitely take care of you. Producer Tony, I'm super excited for today's show. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Yeah, this is good. I'm glad that Caleb called me back. And Caleb, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you both doing this morning?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Doing great. Good to be with you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking some time out of your schedules this morning, and we'll try to get you off of here as quick as we can, but we're definitely interested in this topic, and I think producer Tony's kind of followed it a little bit more than what I have. So can you give us a...
Just hang on a second.
All right.
We got to tell the story. So
okay, right ahead.
So Caleb, you wrote an article that got picked up by Yahoo, right?
Yeah.
And that article was based on the fact that Indiana Anderson area is a hotbed for UFOs?
Well, the article came about because we saw we get these studies, quote unquote, I use air quotes for those, about different topics. So one of it was about alien abductions. And so we thought that would be kind of just a fun article. And so I looked around for some sources and found Terry Tolley and interviewed him and did a few other things, and the story was born.
Nice. And then Brandon comes into play because he's kind of, him, and he's kind of follows this a lot more, and probably would you consider yourself, Brandon, a novice or an expert in this field?
Oh, definitely a novice. No expert. I'm like anybody else that, had just got the itch and have been trying to scratch it ever since.
Okay. Well,
hey, can you guys give us a little bit of background on the both of you? I'm not sure which one of you wants to go first, whether it be Brandon or Caleb. One of you, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and then maybe a little bit more of how you got involved in the UFO stuff.
I'll go first. So my name's Caleb Amick. I'm a reporter at the Herald Bulletin in Anderson. I am from Scottsburg, Indiana. I'm 28 years old, and I just got into UFOs just for this article, and that was it. I mean, I'm not really it's not one of my topics of interest.
I see. Brandon?
Yeah, so for me, it all started with a guy telling me about a documentary that he watched about UFOs, and I made fun of him about it.
Sure.
Turns out it was the Bob Lazar documentary, and this is probably back in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And I jumped on and started watching that, and just kind of became convinced. And just a little bit of background. Again, my name is Brandon Kirk. I've been in ministry for, almost 20 years now, and I have my own insurance agency. And for me, I just have been fascinated with how this lines up with our faith. That's kind of the big question, for me, because obviously I believe in God, and just wondering how all of this works. And after watching the documentary on Bob Lazar, started to kind of say, all right, maybe there's a little bit more to this than what I thought. And putting together just stories. There's a guy from our church that had an experience. My wife's father-in-law had an experience, and everything I heard Bob Lazar saying was describing very accurately, their experience as well. And so just something that I've jumped into more and more.
So because there is a question about the religious side of it, right? So some would think that it would be not religious if that happened, but then some believe that would even be more cause to say that there was a God, right? So how do you navigate through that personally? What is your take on that personally?
Again, that's what I'm searching for. There's times that, we read scripture and, you have the disciples that are with Jesus, and oftentimes he's saying one thing and they're interpreting as another, but then come to find out they realize that's not what he was talking about at all. And there's a verse, I think it's in John chapter 5, where Jesus says, I have sheep that are not of this sheep pen, and I must bring them also.
Right.
And I've wondered, is that one of those verses? Most people would say that's referring to Jew and Gentile, but it's one of those times I look at it as like, well, we look back and say, okay, now we realize Jesus was talking about something much different. And, heaven's going to look a lot more like Star Wars than what we ever thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Brandon, can you do me a favor and discuss a little bit more about like the people in your church or the other people that you've in your family that have had these experiences? Can you define the word experiences maybe a little bit more for us? Like,
sure. I mean, I can share the story if you'd like,
if you don't mind.
Yeah. So my father-in-law lived in near Denver, Colorado, and his kids were still back here. They were from Newcastle, Indiana, and on a trip back out to Denver, him and his wife were just driving along. Wherever they were at, it was pretty flat, and he saw some lights up ahead. He said it looked like it was about 2 miles ahead, and he thought the cops had pulled somebody over. So he said that to his wife. He said, "Look, the cops got somebody pulled over up ahead." He said, then the lights kind of, moved right to left in front of them, and then come flying past them about 30 foot to the left, to his left on the road that they were traveling, and then stopped and hovered again about a mile or two behind him. And I asked him, I said, how quick did the lights get from in front of you to behind you? And he said, as quick as I could turn my head. And my next question was, did you want to turn around and go see and check it out? And, what did you feel? He said, I was terrified. He said, I put the pedal to the metal. I wanted to get as far away from that thing as possible. They ended up calling into a news station, I think, within the next few days after, and a lot of people had reported seeing the same thing. And so, always I'd ask them, what do you think it was? And it was, I don't know. They didn't know what it was, but that's what they saw. And when I watched the Bob Lazar documentary and, and seeing some of like the Tic Tac videos and stuff, it just seemed to really line up with the movement, and, of how that all took place, and kind of brought some credibility, to their situation. So that was one. Another story was a guy in my church. His name's Mike. He said when he was young, this is back in like 1975, his family's from Anderson, and they were driving to Columbus, Indiana. And I think they said it was going through Greenfield, I think it was. And saw a UFO came over the top of their car and startled their mom for sure. And so she quickly pulled into a gas station, and I guess the UFO kind of kept going. There was like a gas station and then a field and then some woods, and the UFO kind of went and kind of hovered over the woods, maybe kind of dipped down, almost like it was hiding, I guess. And so she ran in and grabbed the guy working the gas station, and brought him out and was, asking, what is this? What is this? What is this? And he said, I have no idea. And he got scared, ran back in the gas station and locked the door. And the mom ran back to the car. It was Mike and his sister, his mom, his grandma, and his grandma was just saying, we need to get out of here. And so they took off again, and the UFO just kind of kept following them. They kept seeing it closer. They said it was probably about 100 feet in the air, and it would just kind of swoop by them as they were going. And again, I asked the question, I said, what did your mom feel? What did you guys feel? And he said they were scared. Mom said that she was afraid, that she felt like they were going to try to abduct the kids. And so they were trying to get as far away as they could. So those are two stories of people that I, know that I find credible, no reason to lie about their experiences or anything like that. I've just been fascinated by their stories.
Have you yourself seen anything?
I've never seen anything. No. I go outside when I let my dog out. I live out in the country, and I look up at the sky, waiting for my time, hoping to see something, but I never have.
I just pulled up. There was a reporting of a UFO UFO encounter of the second kind, and it was in Greenfield in 1978. Don't know if that's when that happened, but there's been.
I thought he said 1975 for him.
Okay, yeah.
I could be wrong. That could be off.
Be right.
That could be it.
Yeah, it's amazing because it's David, have you known anybody that's ever seen one?
I have not, no.
I have not either, but it's amazing because I've always wanted to see one. But do you think they're our technology, or do you think it's something from? I got a 2-part question for you because you spoke about the religious side, because the Göbekli tablets talk about this too, right? They talk about 12,000 years ago, the Black Knight satellite, right, that orbits Earth, right? Do you know about that?
Mm-hmm.
So like that orbits. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that there's been some tablet deciphering from 12, 15, 20,000 years ago, and they're talking about kind of what they saw the same things, right? And they're talking about how kind of it happened. So if you believe that's the deciphering of the tablets, is that they can decipher them. But anyways, I didn't know if you were familiar with that.
I'm familiar with Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
Just what they found, that it seems to be buried intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
and its age, and just kind of go along with the pyramids. Our people back in this time building structures of that nature. What kind of technology did they possess, or what was helping them? So,
to your point with that, Brandon, if there was ever such a thing as time travel, or if there is such a thing as time travel, the one instance in time that resonates with me the most is if I could go back to see when the pyramids are being built, just how they did it. If I could peek over their shoulder, like, how the hell are you doing this or whatever?
Right.
I mean, just the technology. I mean, there's
a lot about it. I mean, there's a lot about that, like how they did that. Can't duplicate it, can't get it within the error ratio that they did it to this date. We can't, right? It's within a micron.
Right.
So, yeah, I think we've been lied to about our history. I really think we have been. And I think maybe the secrets are in in Rome, in the 5 mile tunnels of the Roman Catholic Church, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But
but to answer your question too, you'd asked about the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Is it our technology? And if you believe, what's his name, Stephen Greer,
right?
He says that we have, some of the technology is ours and some of it is theirs, and that we have been successful in reverse engineering. And if you listen to Bob Lazar's story, that goes back to what, the 70s and 80s,
Yeah.
That he claims to have worked at S4 and Area 51 and all that. And you would think surely in that span of time, we would have had some success in reverse engineering, some of these things. But he would claim that some of it is, man-made and some of it is extraterrestrial or foreign in nature.
It's like there was a big rush to get all the German scientists, right? Because they were working on something, and we and the Russians moved mountains and did illegal things to get them, right, to steal them,
right.
So,
right.
So a question for all of you, and including producer Tony, why is this such a taboo or a kept secret topic? I've never have been able to understand why, if this is such a topic that people kind of steer away from, if there is such a thing or whatever, if these things are out there. Can anybody answer that for me, or is that?
Go ahead, you guys go first.
I think it's comes down to probably money and power.
Mm-hmm.
I think the number one responsibility of our government is to protect the American people.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you admit to some of this technology that's so far advanced than ours, and you kind of have to admit if things go haywire, we're not sure we can protect us. I think that's a hard thing for them to do. And I think just following the money. We have senators, congressmen right now that are trying to declassify things.
Right.
And there are certain congressmen that are not signing on to that bill, and most of their funding is coming from Raytheon and
military
and Lockheed Martin. Yeah. And so I think a lot of it's money. I think it's probably something that would greatly disrupt our economic situation in a way that maybe is not recoverable. And I think there's great fear of that. So for me, I think that's why I think we've been I think it's been conditioned to be taboo, and I think, just early last year, you had, you had this Chinese spy balloon that's flying over the country. We know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and we know what it's doing. Neither one of it's good, and they won't shoot it down.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the same time, you have 2-3 different objects that are unidentified, where the government is saying we don't know what it is, and they shot all of them down. The logic in that just doesn't make sense. We know what one thing is, and it's not good, and we're going to leave it. And these other unidentified things, we're going to shoot those down. And I felt like, oh man, here we go. This is like coming out now, and people just like don't seem to care. Like at this point, we're society with our heads in our phones, and I don't know what it'll take to get people to start recognizing the issue, but I think we're conditioned to believe it's conditioned to be taboo.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I never thought of it that way. Yeah. So I'm kind of like Brandon. Every night I go into work at midnight every night, and the first thing I always do is look up in the sky, and always look up in the sky. If I'm out at night, I'm constantly looking up, because I'm interested to see something. I hope, whether I would do or not, I don't know, but I'm always looking, So.
No, I know. I think he's right, man. I think it's, me personally, I think it's really probably power, and then the money, and that follows, right? So, because if you go back and you look at the history of the electric car, we had electric cars in the 20s and 30s. They built them from rich women in New York and Manhattan that couldn't do a stick shift, right? So we never progressed on the power of the battery, or did we? And then if you see the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car, it kind of explains how that would significantly kill the economy, right? The petroleum industry. So, and that would be tons of power. And I think when it comes to UFOs, if you've created some kind of anti-gravitational force that you can use, and you can fly these things electrically or nuclear power, well, that means I could probably heat my home for free, right? So it's all about control and power. Yeah. You taking off?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Caleb.
Yep.
Have a good day, man. Brandon, you still there?
I'm still here.
All right, good. So, just the power, like you said, I think that's the key to it. And I mean, if and my gosh, the lies they would have to cover up if they came out today and told us that they've had this technology since when I was in the military, they always said what you see now was done 30 years ago. So you're seeing, I mean, I had a Motorola cell phone in the mid 80s, right? In the military. So, and he kept saying, they got them designed to fit in your pocket at the home office. And we laughed at this guy, laughed at him like, no way is that happening. So it did. So I think that it's a little bit of the control and the power in society, right? To control us a little bit. I mean, if you were to tell 300 million Americans that, hey, we do have free electric, you know what I mean? It's going to be people are going to stop paying bills. I wouldn't pay my electric company if I'd find out where I could get that box and put it in my garage, you know? So, but, so Brandon, go ahead.
I think there's a reason that, they went in and confiscated Nikola Tesla's patents.
Yeah.
And it's like, what were in those things that would have disrupted the powers and money makers at the time?
Yeah. And they kind of like cornered him into a crazed man toward the end of his life, right? He's a crazy and he's living in he's living in, I forgot where he was living, somewhere nice, but yeah, you're right. That's a whole, what were there, 2 or 3 of his what do they call them? Trunk cases missing.
Mm-hmm.
So you wonder about that. The wireless transmitter, this guy was so far ahead of his time. One thing that bothers me, Brandon, about all this stuff is you can easily go and find, Tesla, Einstein, their theories, what they were working on. It's hard to find who are those people today, right? What are they working on? We don't see that stuff. Right. So it's got to be mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, can you, I want to revert back just a little bit to your faith and I don't know if UFOs are the right terminology to use, but your faith in this. And do you tie what people might see as an alien to be maybe more of a ghostly figure or somebody in the past that's passed away, a spirit? Yeah, maybe that's the right word. Sorry. Is that what you mean by kind of tying your faith in with it too, or no?
No, not really. I mean, and I don't have answers for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's still what I'm searching, because while I have people and have seen things and in the UFO world and believe myself that there's got to be something out there, I've had other experiences in just walking with the Lord, other unexplained things where I just feel like if there were no God,
right,
then explain this type things. And so I'm overwhelmingly convinced that there is a God and what Scripture says. And so I just wonder,
sure,
the Bible doesn't talk about this, and so why is that?
Right.
Are there other planets? Are there other creatures? Other beings that God created at some point in time? Galaxies far, far away, where He had to go and die on a cross for their sins as well.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, we're going to be all married together. Or is it? The other thing I've thought is it something where, Scripture talks about creating us in God's image, which I think just means, the ability to reason and to love and to have relationship with Him. And I wonder, if, because, I believe that, God, had a big bang, I kind of would lean towards the Big Bang Theory, just that it was God ordained, and if that were the case and God created the entire universe in a manner like that, and there was a process of evolution that He kind of guided, for us to get to this point where we're at, and let's just say that there were other beings, that came about in this process of evolution that God never went in and created them in His image and just let them go. How far advanced could those beings get if they were 2 million years ahead of us? If they were 2 million years ahead of us, and they had Neanderthal type people and they just continued to develop on their own in absence of God, is it possible that these are just beings, highly, highly intelligent beings that, for all rights, I guess we would refer to them maybe even more as animals, the same way we would look. How smart would, monkeys be, 1 million years from now? And what would they be creating and producing? And is that what it is? So I just have speculative thinking, are they here intentionally because God put them there? Are they here by happenstance in the manner in which he created things? I don't know. I don't know the answer to those questions.
Those are good thoughts, though. I mean, it's definitely thought provoking, and there's no wrong answer. But it would be nice to have, it's always good to think about that kind of stuff or whatever. I applaud you for your ability to kind of think things through.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like I'm a pretty reasonable person, not to just jump on bandwagons and go down rabbit holes and just believe everything, that's out there. But Tucker Carlson is on record, for recently saying that there is a spiritual aspect of this that he just doesn't understand. And I'm like, man, I'm with you, brother. I don't know what he knows. But I've also read, there's a book, UFO of God, by Chris Bledsoe. If you've not read that, I would strongly encourage you to take a look at that. He seems like a very credible source. Was recently on the History Channel. There was a show Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, and I think he was on the 12th episode or 10th episode, or no, maybe it was only like the 6th episode. But anyway, he's had experiences of seeing these orbs throughout his life, and they even put stuff on his head and monitored his brain while he was kind of summoning these orbs. I mean, this is documented on the History Channel, on episodes. And he says that this is spiritual, in nature.
Okay.
And my worry is that I try to talk to people about it, and most people don't want to talk about it. My wife's done talking about it with me. Some of my friends are done talking about it with me. But I just have a real fear for the church, when and if something comes out, about all of this, people are going to have questions, and they're going to wonder, how does this line up with Scripture? How does this line up with God? And I think pastors are ill prepared. And, for the first time, they'll be thinking about those conversations, and they won't have answers to it. And so my fear is that the church kind of starts to crumble because of our lack of awareness, our lack of knowledge, of putting all of this together. And for me, I feel like we need to be ahead of that curve. And if there is something, like aliens, I think we need to be able to answer some questions as best we can.
Do you think the government knows?
I think the government knows. Yeah, absolutely. I think the government knows and is not hiding it. If you listen to Lou, what's his name? Lou Elizondo.
Yeah.
He I think says, people aren't ready to know. He worked on getting things declassified. I have an uncle an uncle-in-law, I guess, that worked Army intelligence, last station at the Pentagon. And I kind of ask him things, from time to time. And he's still, he's retired now, but still has to take polygraph tests and everything, and has to be careful about what he says. And I remember asking him, I said, do you believe in UFOs? And he just said, well, yeah, sure. And he kind of answered it in a way that I didn't know whether to take him serious or not. And he came back to me and he said, hey, have you ever heard of Lou Elizondo? Lou Elizondo, I always struggle with his name. I said, no. He said, look him up. He asked me to work with him a couple years back. And so I did. And it was, this guy, trying to get things declassified about what the government knows and all of that. So I thought that was interesting. And then recently found out that I have a cousin that has served with him and has had conversation with him as well.
That's amazing. The only thing that gets me sideways sometimes, because I've dug into this subject, went down the rabbit holes, is you ever heard of Richard Doty?
Yes.
So he was paid by the Air Force to spread misinformation. And he claims, so now he's back on the other side of the fence saying, because he would show up at UFO meetings and distort all their give them fake information and let them run with it like it was real. And
right.
And now he's the opposite or is he? You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it always
Right.
leaves this question mark, because I follow Stephen Greer. I think he's probably the most accurate on the whole subject, because I think some of it is us. But have you watched any of Sean Ryan's podcast?
That name sounds familiar. He may be one that interviewed Chris Bledsoe recently.
Yeah. Yes. And yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's got who I just mentioned on there too. You know, he talks about that. But yeah, that's a great podcast to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But so where do you think they're getting closer to unveiling what the truth is, or do you think that's always going to be a mystery for us? It seems like if you can keep something like that kind of a secret this long, I don't think we'll ever know. And if you got government blocking you, you know, like the congressman from Ohio, right? He's Raytheon's biggest lobbyist, right? He's the one blocking it, right?
Right. Yep.
So,
yeah, I personally think it's going to come out. You know, you know how they say, you know, if you know, when you're driving down the road, how many red cars did you see? If you're not looking for them, you have no idea. But if you're looking for red cars, you see them all over the place.
right.
And so I don't know if, just because as I've gotten more into this since 2019, it seems to me that there's a lot more information coming out than ever before. Either that, or I'm just seeing more red cars because I'm looking for them.
Yeah.
But, you know, seeing things on Fox News, you know, recovered aircraft, you know, David Grush, like all of these people coming out, I feel it just seems like we are certainly turning a corner. And, you know, if you listen to Chris Bledsoe and his story, and, you know, he says around Easter 2026, I think it is, that the star of Regulus will line up with the gaze of the Sphinx, and humanity is supposed to come into a new knowledge, whatever that means. And he claims that he was told that. So I'm counting down the days till then to see if anything happens.
Well, right.
But
Yeah.
it certainly seems more to me, it seems like there has been more and more disclosure, more and more things happening. I personally thought last year, you know, when we were shooting down those unidentified objects, I thought that this was the start of a soft disclosure,
So
where
yeah.
it just kind of starts to trickle more and more.
So we did shoot down 3. Tell me about that, because I don't remember that part.
Yeah, they shot them down, and they said that they were unidentified objects, and I believe it was 3 of them. I mean, this was all over the news.
Where was it at? Where did they shoot them down at, Brandon?
One was, I think, over Lake Erie, I believe, and one I think was in Canada, and I'm not sure where the third one was. But in all cases, of course, they said that, you know, it's not going to be possible to recover these things because the terrain just keeps them from being able to get to them, which just seems, you know, funny to me. But in my opinion, I was thinking, you know, if the government were in on it and knew about these things, and that there was some type of agreement, you know, because they've got claims that we've had presidents that have met with aliens.
Right.
And I have no idea if any of that stuff is true, but you just stock it in the back of your mind. And it's kind of like, well, if that were the case, maybe they, you know, as far as playing into the fear, you know, it makes us look really good if we are able to shoot them down. And so I thought maybe that was allowed, you know, just as part of a disclosure thing. This is just me.
Well, and then you had you're talking about Eisenhower, right? Meeting with the aliens, and then Gordon Cooper videotaped, the former astronaut videotaped a whole thing that happened on the base, right? You ever hear about that?
Yeah. No, are you talking on the you're not talking about the Apollo mission?
Well, he mentions that, but he also talks about he was in charge of a secure base, I think somewhere in New Mexico. And there's a 3D animation made about what he described on YouTube. You could watch it. It's about a 3-minute video. But Gordon Cooper, supposedly one of the most reliable people we could ever talk to about space, claims that they landed on that base and that they met with military officials. And he said there was a videotape of it, and the videotape was confiscated. And there's people that say they saw the videotape, high-ranking people in our government that have retired and talked about the videotape, but no one can find it.
Is this with Eisenhower? Is that what you're saying?
I think there's two incidents. Yeah, I may be convoluting two incidents together. It was either he videotaped that segment or there was a different incident where he videotaped, because he was a part of the, in his final career in the military, he was in charge, ironically, in charge of military filming and doing some things. So, which was unique why they would put Gordon Cooper in charge of that. But that's what he did. And he claims that until the day he died, he claimed that they were legit and that they landed here. And then you had the Israeli top intel guy who died a few years back, right? He said that U.S. presidents has met with aliens.
Yeah.
So
well, and the Canadian Prime Minister of Defense, that has come out and talked about.
Did you hear about that, Dave?
Yeah.
No, tell David about that, Brandon, because that's unique.
Yeah, I mean, I think from what I remember, he came out and said that, governments know about it. The American government knows that there are, I can't remember if it was 12 or 40, somewhere in that range of different species of aliens that we know about and have been in communication with.
Wow.
And this is the former Canadian, Prime Minister of Defense.
Yeah.
Wow. And I just don't understand how stuff like that doesn't get more traction.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt in all of this stuff, that there is some misinformation out there and stuff that we hear, and stories, maybe he was promoting disinformation. Who knows? There's no doubt that there's some of that out there, but you start hearing and connecting the dots from a lot of different people, and at the very least, we know there's something. We've had presidents we've had Obama himself talk about, that there are things flying that we don't know what they are. You've had Ronald Reagan that I think had 2 different UFO experiences, one when he was a governor, I think another time maybe when he was president, and very credible sources.
Oh, I pulled up what you talked about. I missed that, David. I pulled up the article. We did shoot down 3 F-22 shot down car-sized object 40,000 feet over Alaska, February 11th. Yeah. Go ahead, Brandon. Were you going to say something?
No, go ahead. Yep, that's right.
February 11th, U.S. F-22 shot down a cylindrical object over northern Canada. And then the Great Lakes one, F-16 destroys an object 20,000 feet over Lake Huron. Wow. I missed that.
What year was this, Producer Tony?
Yes, David. Thank you. This was, there's a 4th one, Brandon. This was 2023.
Okay.
And then that was earlier. F-22 fighter jet, February 4th, shoots down a Chinese balloon. Yeah, okay, so they shot down 4 objects. Yeah,
I think the balloon was the 4th. They eventually, shot it down. I guess once it got out over the ocean, maybe, or something.
Wow. Yeah,
but they were real quick to shoot down the other ones.
Yeah, they were real. They shot them down immediately. It looks like.
Yeah.
As soon as NORAD, it says here, as soon as NORAD declared they were unidentified flying objects, they activated the military. And it's funny because we're over Canada shooting, right? It's like, why isn't the Canadians doing this? I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, Brandon, if we're the aliens.
Yeah. Very well could be.
Yeah. Stardust. We all got stardust in us, right? In our DNA. And it only comes from meteorites and comets, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's crazy. So where do we go from here, man, on this UFO thing? We just pay attention to it and take it all in and let it happen, huh?
Yeah, I think you just watch with caution, listen with caution. And I feel like there are just some common denominators. When Bob Lazar came out and told his story, what stuck with me was how he said those that the UFOs that he saw and watched flew. And that lined up with what my father-in-law had seen.
Right.
And so we're talking about, I had heard this story from my father-in-law 2 decades before I ever watched the Bob Lazar documentary, and then you watch other people that seem to be credible where these things are moving in the same manner. And so there's definitely some common denominators where you can say, okay, there's something here. And obviously you go too far down the rabbit hole and, we're talking about other things, but, I sure wish the Bible had said more about the Nephilim.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if there's a dot to connect there.
Right.
And scripture just doesn't go into it, but I mean, there are other places in scripture where they, in the Old Testament, where it talks about them not wanting to go through certain areas because they would be stomped on like they were grasshoppers.
Right. Because of the giants.
Mm-hmm. And so, back in the day, people probably just read and was probably like, what in the world are they talking about? Now we're kind of like, well, maybe that's something. But I think we just got to keep our eyes and ears open, and not to just immediately assume that people are wacky that have stories or experiences, and people that are sharing information, but at the same time using caution, because you never know what's misinformation.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you said, to keep an open mind, because I'm in my mid-50s. David is too. I don't know how old you are, Brandon, but
I'm about to turn 43 tomorrow.
Okay,
The young one.
the youngin. So when David and I were kids, and somebody came up to us and said, "I'd seen a UFO," David and I've been like, "Yeah, whatever, you're crazy." And then we would have went in and watched all of it on TV that we could, because we wanted to believe it, but you just couldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And today,
Right.
that's changed a little bit. Like when I
Mm-hmm.
begin the story of it happened, like I saw one that Elon Musk Starlink system. Yeah, the look in people's eyes were like, yeah, but it wasn't as much as it would have been in the 20 years ago or 10 years ago. They're like, really, oh, really, So it's come a long way, and
Man.
it's interesting. When I was in the Persian Gulf, you could literally look up at the sky. It was so dark, man. You could look up and you could literally see satellites. I know you can see them in America, but those are lower orbiting. But I'm talking about in the 80s, you could see these satellites. And I mean, they were just, I thought it was UFOs at first. And then we were like, no, those are satellites. Right. And then they were just zipping, man, like hundreds of them.
Oh yeah, they're fast, because I've seen here, like I'll see what looks like a shooting star, but it just never disappears.
Yeah.
And it's like booking it across the sky, and you'll go, so I'll like quickly Google, like, where's the International Space Station? And sure enough, we're like within sight of it. You realize
Really?
that's what you're seeing.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I've been out west. We do a guys trip every year. And past few years, we've been going out to like Vegas and seeing the Grand Canyon and different things. And we could see the space station going by. You get out there in Grand Canyon where there's nothing and it's just dark. Yeah, that thing is zipping by.
I need to figure that out. That's interesting. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. But even out there, I even asked a guy. It was the guy that was there's the Grand Canyon on the west rim, the one that's on the Indian reservation or whatever. They have this glass bridge that you can walk out on. Mm-hmm. And of course, they got people taking your pictures and everything. And so the guy that was taking our pictures, I said, "Hey, do you ever see anything out here like at night? And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, like maybe things not from here. He said, actually, I have. And he said, There was one night that I was out jogging, and there was this triangular craft that came down and just within sight, and then took off. And I mean, this is complete stranger guy, who knows, maybe he's making it up just to, fascinate me, but why does he have reason to lie to me either?
Right.
Stranger. And obviously not far from Area 51 too. So,
man, that's amazing. David, you
That is amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting here captivated by all those stories.
Yeah.
I'm just, this is awesome. I appreciate it. And I know this is kind of off topic a little bit, but I mean, talking about things going through the sky, I believe it was yesterday, there was a stadium-sized meteor that went by Earth.
Oh, really?
1.77 million miles away.
Yeah.
The sun or the moon's
Right.
240,000 miles away in this meteor, but the stadium-sized meteor that went across the sky.
Wow.
Whatever. We won't have another meteor that close in 100 years. I don't know how they know that, but they
Yeah,
know
right.
that. They're a lot smarter than you and I, or the three of us,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you
Yeah.
figure, like, gosh, man, the math on that, right? To figure that out. Like,
Numbers
yeah, they
make my brain hurt.
It's like they threw Galileo in prison for the rest of his life to die because he said
Yeah.
that the Earth rotated around the sun. And they were like, you're going to prison.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's
he
like,
said that the Earth was not the center of the universe, and it was the church that had a real big problem with that.
Okay.
you're shunned from society. The smartest man,
Yeah.
one of the smartest men in the history of the world. It's amazing. And sometimes I think the religious side, I'm religious, but sometimes I think the religious side and squelches it a little bit. And it's all goes back to power and things like that. But and I don't want to really get too off into that, but I just think we just need to know, and somehow the digging and finding it is the hardest thing, obviously. But you just wish we'd full disclosure and because I don't think it really affects religion. So I think it might help it actually, because it's talked about 20,000 years ago on tablets, right? So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you get into scripture, I mean, I've told my friends, I have a theory, a possible theory. It's like the scripture talks about the Antichrist and how the Antichrist is supposed to come and unite the whole world. And I think, man, what government leader would be capable of doing that? Nobody from China, nobody from the United States, nobody from Russia. Who's the one guy that's going to rise up that everybody's okay with? I don't think there is one. And I've thought, well, but if there were beings that came and looked close enough to us, as some claim, but they're alien, and they come and they bring new technology and information and enlightenment. Well, now I think there's something that a lot of people in the world could get behind together, just like Reagan said. If there was a threat from an outside source, how quickly the world would unite together and forget our differences.
Right.
And so I thought, I wonder if the Antichrist is an alien. You
ever read the Pale Horse Rides book?
I've not.
He's a former CIA guy, and he talks about in the CIA there was whether we know or understand really, but the part of the intelligence agencies is always looking for a way for us to survive as a society. What do they got? They got all these scenarios played out. And one of the scenarios to control society was a fake UFO invasion.
Yes.
And then it would just collapse. That would be like one way you're saying that you said earlier that it would take one person, but that way it would have to be a collaboration between countries to agree. Or certain leaders, right? Like 3 or 4 leaders agree that that's what,
right.
That's it. And then they take the leadership of the world that way. But, but man, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Brandon. We might have you back on the show.
Yeah,
the next
we'd love to have you back
on,
Brandon.
And we'll keep in touch with you. And man, it was really a pleasure meeting you. And
thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I like talking about this stuff because getting to the point where I talk about it so much, I'm wearing people out. So it's good to have people willing to listen and discuss and share. So
you were an outstanding guest today, Brandon. We appreciate you taking your time out of your busy Saturday, and we hope to talk to you again soon, brother.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Brandon, be good and happy 2024.
Yep. Same to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ship's Gonna Happen out with Brandon. David B., what do you think?
I love that. He did an excellent job. Brandon was very informative and had I could just keep listening.
I know.
He had some good stories, and it's nice to kind of hear a different aspect or a different look on things, and then talk with somebody that knows some people that have had experiences, and it was very nice to listen to, and I hope we can have you back sometime.
We will. That was fun. So David B,
Producer Tony, my favorite time of the show is upon us.
Oh yeah.
Our good friend Mr. Rich Warren is kind of behind us, kind of keeping track of our little Reckless Club podcast that we got going on. And he posed a question that had me baffled from a song from 1986.
What is that?
And by the way, this year, for this episode, we are covering the music of 1986. So I'm, he sends us these little voicemail things or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And had me baffled about what is that song? The lyrics, and it was used, the instrumental version was used as a the beginning of Sean Hannity's show on Fox News, and he's given us some hints and given us some lyrics, and I was just completely baffled. And but he did a good job. I'm like, and Rich Warren has an excellent voice. His voice is like
Rich Warren.
He should be hosting his own show with music and everything. He does a great job. But anyway, Bruce Hornsby and the
Remember Walmart Rich, and you're listening to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast.
There's my man right there, Mr. Rich Warren. If you you can catch Rich on YouTube if look him up. He's
in Alaska
guy.
right now.
He's got good stories. He does a really good job with his videos. Talks about Walmart onboarding and all that stuff. Excellent.
Great.
Very
dude.
nice. Yes. Very, very nice guy.
And he's in Alaska right now.
Right. So he gives us the lyrics of Bruce Hornsby and the Range. The name of this.
The Way It Is.
Yeah.
The way it is. The Way It Is.
Yeah.
It's a good song.
It is a very good song from 1986. I'd kind of forgotten about that
Top hit.
song.
Yeah, it's a great song.
But yeah, it was a
Bruce Hornsby and the Range.
Yeah. So 1986 it seemed like a quiet year as far as the news of music is concerned. And excuse me, on January the 30th of 1986, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had its very first induction class in 1986. It seems like it was longer ago than that, but in Cleveland, Ohio.
And who were they? Do you know?
It did not give the list, and I should look it up.
I'll look it up real quick.
Awesome. That would be much appreciated.
Because I'm wondering what kind of artists they did. 50s, 60s, what did they do?
Excuse me. One of the weird things, May the 28th, the Monkees held a press conference to say that they were going to embark on a 100 plus city tour, and it actually became one of the highest grossing tours of the year.
Mm-hmm.
The Monkees.
Oh yeah, they're huge.
In 1986. It just seems like I was 17 then. It just doesn't seem like they were that popular, but
they had a couple big hits in the 60s that were not, I think, Daydreamer. Or whatever. Hang on.
Daydream Believer.
Yeah, thank you. They had, I think that was a number one hit.
Okay. But
they actually could play.
Okay. Yeah. Where originally they were not hired to play, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Their show. Again, it was a quiet kind of year in music. Let's see here.
I'm a Believer, 1996, number one.
Okay. I'm a Believer. That was a good song.
Daydream Believer, number one, 1967.
Oh, wow. Queen performed its last show with Freddie Mercury.
Huge.
In 1980.
One of the greatest live performances in rock history.
Underrated, or was he not? Underrated?
I'll tell you the story real quick because I'm a big Queen guy. So they were asked to come play at Live Aid in Wembley Stadium. To sell out Wembley Stadium, you got to be something special. So Freddie Mercury they hadn't been played for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, I don't think anybody's going to come see us. And then Freddie Mercury's like, he's not sure. And then they tell him, dude, it's sold out. And they're like, what? And so he goes and he performs live. And it sounded like they had rehearsed this forever. It was so good that Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin said, I don't want to follow this act. And they had to go on stage after them.
Oh, wow.
And they sounded like shit. And so Queen had blown everybody away. Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Thank you, brother.
Great story. So the number one Billboard hit, and again, these numbers are compliments of Billboard. The Billboard Hot 100, and the number one hit for 1986, according to Billboard, That's what friends are for. Dionne Warwick and Friends.
Yuck.
And yeah, so the Friends are Dionne Warwick and Friends is Dionne Warwick, Gladys Knight, Elton John, and Stevie Wonder. I know the song, but
that's when society went off track.
Meh.
That's what friends are for.
Right.
It got soft during that year, didn't it?
Yep. Number 7 song of the year, Eddie Murphy, Party All the Time.
Party all the time. I remember that.
Yeah, that was Robert Palmer, Addicted to Love. You remember that?
I'm addicted to
So
love.
remember that video? That's when he had all the chicks playing their instruments.
Oh,
They
yeah.
had the bright
Huge,
red.
yeah.
They were all pasty. They had their hair
Beautiful.
pulled back. Yeah. That was
Mhm.
when I was researching 1980. Anytime I research these years, one of the best things about it is also watching the music videos they were just phenomenal. I mean, we don't have, well, maybe there are still music videos.
What's that song? Music video killed the
Video killed the radio.
video, killed the radio. Yeah.
Who sings that? Do you know?
I don't remember.
It's the Bugles. No, excuse me, the Buggles.
The Buggles.
The Buggles did. So yeah, that was probably. I'm gonna go either 1980 or 1981. I don't remember the exact year. Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel. I remember that song.
Peter Gabriel's awesome.
That was in at number 23 for the year. Rock Me Amadeus by Falco.
Rock Me Amadeus. Never liked it.
Yeah, that was Papa Don't Preach by
Papa
Madonna.
Don't Preach.
Janet Jackson was on here a couple times. When I Think of You at number 32. Belinda Carlisle making a solo with a solo hit, Mad About You. Excuse me. Manic Monday by the Bangles.
Another Manic Monday.
Take Me Home Tonight.
Take Me Home Tonight.
Eddie Money.
Formerly Eddie Mahoney.
Okay. All right.
Former New York police officer.
Word Up by Cameo.
Word Up.
I like that song.
Word Up.
Man. All these songs make you feel old. I mean, when you're kind of going through these lists or whatever.
How about
Number at 89. This number at number 89 is a song that I thought would have been much further up on the chart.
Oh man. Yeah.
Walk This Way by Run DMC.
I think it kind of depends on when it comes
Aerosmith.
out too, right?
Okay.
So like
That's fair.
You know what I mean? If that would have
That's
come out
fair.
later in the year, that probably would be
Okay.
number one.
Okay.
Because they do it based off record sales, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's fair. And then the number 100 song of that year, which does not even ring a bell, was Go Home by Stevie Wonder. That does not even ring a bell. So
I don't remember that one either.
it's on at 51, Key of Hearts by CCQ. I remember that song.
I don't remember that. Oh, Two Hearts. I don't remember that one.
Two Colors by Cyndi Lauper. That was a nice little kind of slow-ish song.
Colors. Cause that's what I.
There you go. Yeah. Simply Red had a song.
Simply
in there.
Red was huge.
What was the name of that song? The Simply Red song.
He had a couple of them.
It was filmed in a cemetery, kind of a love song-ish type of thing. Man, I don't remember.
I was thinking of the same song you're talking about. It's not on here, right?
I play it every time. Not all the time when we go out, but I'll play it often when we do the jukebox. I just don't remember the name of the song. I don't know why. I can't remember it, but I just
Mike and the Mechanics. All I need is a miracle.
I was a big Pet Shop Boys fan at number 15.
Pet Shop Boys.
West End Girls.
West End Girls.
So Simple Minds in at 17 and Alive and Kicking. I remember that video that took place like on one of the shores in Great Britain. They're on this big rock kind of thing. And anyway, really close to the edge. Good song. Good band, I think.
Your favorite band? You haven't mentioned them yet. I'm shocked.
Look, am I missing something?
No, you probably just haven't got to it yet.
I do. And I'm not afraid to admit
I
this.
hated this group.
I'm not afraid to admit this at all. I thought this woman was so beautiful back in the day and probably still is. Sade,
Mm-hmm.
The Sweetest Taboo. Man, she could sing me the phone book. Yeah, she was good looking. Let's see. I'm seeing some songs I don't like, producer Tony.
Bananarama Venus.
Oh, Panorama. Yeah. Venus. That was probably their last. I'm going to guess that might have been their last song that probably charted. Maybe not, but I'm pretty sure. Maybe. Yeah.
James Brown, Living in America.
Mm-hmm.
John Cougar, your favorite? Rock in the USA.
No. I mean,
Small Town 2 came out that year.
Yeah. I probably would be more of a fan, but the radio stations around here just ruined that for me.
Played it over and over.
Yeah.
It's
only so much you can hear.
It's like growing up in Chicago and having to listen to REO Speedwagon all day in Styx.
And the
which
band,
are good bands.
And probably the band Chicago too, right?
All the time, dude. One time
that there wasn't a brother in that band just baffles me, because when you hear them, I'm like, there's some brothers in this band.
Yeah.
And then when you see a picture of the band, you're like,
no,
ain't a brother in there.
Yeah. And they were called the Chicago Transit Authority before that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got a couple big band members. One of the greatest voices of the band killed himself. He sings 24
25 or 6 to 4.
Yeah, he helped write that, but I don't think he sings that.
Oh,
he helped write. There's another one. That's not the right one. I'm trying to think of, but he ended up killing himself, and it was an accident. But anyway,
what was that guy's name?
I'll think of it.
I'm trying to think of it without looking it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up because I will not think of it.
Because he was legit. Like, he was awesome, wasn't he? I mean,
he wrote a lot of the
same
stuff.
Guy, weren't his guitar skills really good too, or no?
Oh yeah, he was incredible. He was incredible. Terry Kaith.
That's it.
You know who loved him? You know who always wanted them to open for him?
Jimi Hendrix.
Yes. God dang.
Boils from 3.
Dude, that was 3 and an inbound stolen pass for 2 for 5.
Boils for 3.
You got 5.
Bam. Fouled on the shot.
Yeah, David went up to the line and pressed on the inbound pass and stole it and did a layup for 2. So that you got 5, dude.
Damn.
Yes, Jimi Hendrix loved those guys.
Was it Terry Clath or
yeah?
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Terry.
I feel like
Kath,
I'm saying it.
lead singer, Chicago, 1978.
I was saying
accidentally killed himself. There's a good documentary on that band in I don't know why we're out of Chicago, but there's a good documentary about them on YouTube that kind of talks about kind of the stuff they went through. And you would think that was a soul band, right? You would think that was it was incredible music, man.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday. You know how many times I heard that in the park?
You think of those vocals right there for that song.
Yep.
And I think it's a brother.
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm not saying anything bad by that. I'm just like, there's the brothers in that band, the soul, like you're saying. Just no, not a brother in it, man.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Them and Lou Rawls.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never find a love like mine.
Yeah. My way. There's a lot of just music that I completely forgotten about. 1986. Wow. So that's about it for all I got for 1986. I don't have much more. Kind of a.
But you're right.
Reckless Club.
Walk This Way should have been like.
Because I remember anticipating that thing coming out when you first heard it.
Yeah.
And they get into their.
Yeah. There's a backstory to that. So Steven Tyler, they never rehearsed that thing. They just kind of like got in the studio and it was like 1 or 2 cuts and they were done. They were talking, the separation in the video when they had them pounding on. The idea was to have them separate and doing that. But when they recorded it, they were kind of together doing it. And it's just amazing that worked out like that. Amazing.
Because I think of Run DMC as more of a rap rap group.
Yeah.
Rap. I mean, they had some heavy songs.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, that, I forget the name of the album, but I had that Raising Hell. Was it called Raising Hell? I think, I played the hell out of that thing.
But you also said something too that's true.
It's a tape.
It's a tape that no longer works.
Yes.
It's dried out.
I want to hear that again. Rewind it. Hurry just think now if you had to wait on a tape to rewind, you'd be like, I ain't waiting that long.
I know. I just pulled it up on YouTube.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Oh my God. But what you said too, Queen underrated, totally underrated. Probably one of the tops all time, man. Right? I mean, totally underrated. Yeah. That's funny, man. Wow. 1980 Spies Like Us.
Mm-hmm. That's from wasn't that from the? Was
Chevy
that a movie?
Chase, yeah. I think it's Chevy Chase movies.
Same name of a movie, right?
Right.
That was okay.
All I need is a miracle.
I am. Normally I'm kind of socially backward, but I do a lot of this stuff I remember. So
yeah, no, you're good with music, dude. Way better than I am. I have to look the stuff up.
I feel like the movie part of the. Normally I wouldn't have got that, but I'm like, I think there was a movie called that.
Janet Jackson, nasty,
beautiful woman,
nasty.
Indiana's own Janet Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful woman,
straight out of Gary.
Mm-hmm. I met a gentleman. I want to talk about that.
Hit it up.
So I'm on the west side the other day after you and I had lunch, and I stop in at this bar on the west side, waiting on my wife to come pick me up after work. And I sat next to an older gentleman that was from Gary that worked at U.S. Steel and was originally born in Virginia, and then family up and moved to Gary for the ability to have a sustainable job for a lot of years. And it was nice to hear the backstory on that, to have him tell his story about growing up in Gary. And we discussed the music of Gary, and Gary to me, Gary's an underrated music town. There has to be a lot of music talent that I don't know. I don't even know the names of any of them, but I just bet there's some good music.
I bet there is too.
And he named some. Those names don't resonate with me this morning because I've drank a lot. But yeah, but it was such a great conversation. I love those conversations where you can sit down with somebody and get to know them,
right?
And just be quiet and listen. You get to hear their backstory about growing up in Gary and really seeing it. Unfortunately, kind of the downfall of the city. It used to be a thriving,
big time,
a steel town.
Right.
And now it's desolate.
Right.
For the most part.
Right.
I mean, it's a shell of its former self.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But
sad.
It is.
So 1986 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck Berry.
Nice.
James Brown.
There we go.
Ray Charles.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Cooke.
Mm-hmm.
Fats Domino. Everly Brothers. Buddy Holly. Jerry Lee Lewis. Elvis. Little Richard. Jimmy Roger. Jimmy Yancey. John Hammond. And Alan Freed. Sam Phillips.
That's an excellent induction class.
For the first one. Yeah.
Can't argue any of those.
Chuck Berry ought to be in. But it looks like they targeted the 50s. Mm-hmm. I was wondering what year they would do. It would be inappropriate for them to immediately induct Led Zeppelin, right?
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, it wouldn't be right. So they did it right, it looks like. But there's arguments about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, how they do it, because Joan Jett wasn't in. The Ramones were in before Joan Jett. Heart took a while, right? I mean, it's just, what? Really? I mean, every boy in the world had a poster of Joan Jett and Heart on there, because Heart not only sang well, but they were very attractive. Nan and Nancy Wilson. Mm-hmm. So why did it take so long? And it's just silly.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point. And I'm sure today that there's artists that should be in now that aren't, probably. Maybe
Kiss was one of them. And they're in now, but it took, dude, one of the most selling, you don't have to be a Kiss fan, just math.
I get it.
One of the biggest selling bands of all time. Every rock and roll band tried to imitate them to some extent because their shows were so huge. They were the first ones to do fireworks, the first ones to do lifting on stage. I was a big Kiss fan, but not like they were my number one band, but I liked them. But they kind of brought that hard rock too. They were the timing of that.
It's theatrics.
The theatrics, yeah, that's about probably the best analogy of it. Yeah, it's just so.
They put their name on everything.
Yeah, I mean,
put that image and likeness on everything.
Yes, man. I mean, the
lunch boxes.
Yes, and just all big time. And it was I can't remember the name of the band is from Chicago. It's a hard rock band. He played with Chris, who killed himself a couple years ago. Rage Against the Machine.
Oh yeah,
inducted Kiss into the Hall of Fame.
Chris Cornell is who you're talking about.
And he tells a story there about it's about damn time. He introduces them, inducts them into the Hall of Fame, and he ought to go on YouTube if you can, if you're listening, and watch that, because he kind of it's an epic introduction for him. So, but they got in a few years ago.
And I know we're way off topic now, but Rage Against the Machine, in my opinion, under effing rated. Under effing rated. My opinion.
Oh yeah.
Just my opinion.
And that guitarist, I'm trying to think, he's from Chicago.
Morel.
David
something Morel.
Morel.
Last name's Morel.
Yeah, you're right.
David Morel? No,
let me see. Rage Against the Machine. It's killing me now.
Didn't he just leave the band? I think he just left the band.
Dude, he is talented.
Oh, he can make that guitar just.
Well, he's the one. He's the audio slave that does the wow, wow. He's the one that did that, and I think his name Tom Morell. Tom Morell. Yeah, one David.
Well, we got the last name right.
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, so much talent. I think he just left though.
He may have. He's bounced in some bands.
Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah. There's a buddy of Jake's pulling up. I think they're going to
I didn't know if it was a co-host or something.
Yes. In a new vehicle. Hey.
Yeah.
But that's Keith Watkins' kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love
Keith. You know
Watkins.
Keith. But
one of the nicest, and I legitimately mean he is one
he's
of
a
the
great
nicest
dude, man.
people I've ever met in my life.
Great dude. Known him forever. He's a good dude. But man, that's good stuff, David.
Yeah, 1986.
UFOs and music. There's nothing better than UFOs and music to start your Saturday morning off. What about, you got any random?
Do I have a random thought for today? No. But I tell you what, that interview with Brandon's got me thinking, it's not in a bad way.
No, right.
You have to, it's okay to expand the way you think or whatever,
Well, what's interesting to me about it is we're all curious humans, I think, at the end of the day. And it's just interesting stuff.
But nobody does have
No.
I mean, I can't help but think, when you guys were talking about it taking a catastrophe, a global catastrophe for all of us come together, I immediately thought of somebody right away is going to blame Obama. Be like, Obama did it, just the way we are, where you can't, without blaming somebody. Well, this is the communists. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I know.
Sorry.
No.
We can't
good
even
stuff.
come to agreement on that.
No. So we got David B.
Different topic, different day.
So we have, full show today. It'll be up here. I'll get it up shortly. Don't have to do a lot of editing. And David B, thank you for your time today, man.
Thanks for everybody listening. We're just keep chugging along best we can. We're probably gonna maybe go off topic more often than what we do. Bring on some other guests. I'm more than happy to kind of look at other things in life and get different perspective. We appreciate all of you listen. Smash that like button, click subscribe, swing by the Great Divide, tell them we sent you, and everybody have a great weekend.